No power conference in the country will undergo a bigger facelift than the Big 12 in 2024. Out are the once faithful Texas and Oklahoma, who jilted Commissioner Brent Yemak and the conference for the greener pastures of the SEC. In their place come former Pac-12 members Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, and Colorado. Their additions come just 1 year after the arrival of BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston last season. The Big 12 joins the rest of its power conference comrades in expansion and realignment. This year, the Big 12 goes from 14 teams to 16, keeping pace with most of the others. The SEC went from 14 to 16, the Big 10 went from 14 to 18, and the ACC went from 14 to 17. The other conferences have clear-cut favorites, but not the Big 12. It's more or less wide open, making it difficult to rank the 16 teams. Nevertheless, it's necessary to determine the rankings, especially now that spring activities, including the spring version of the transfer portal, have concluded. With that said, here's our Big 12 post-spring power rankings. 1. Utah. The Utah football team takes the number 1 spot in the Big 12 post-spring power rankings as they enter their first year in the Big 12. What propels them to the top is the consistent program that Kyle Whittingham has built over the years. The Utes were always tough opponents in the Pac-12, and now they bring that level of play to the Big 12, which should translate well. Quarterback Cam Rising returns for what feels like his 20th season after missing all of last season with a knee injury, and some wide receiver transfers should help him make his return much more manageable. If Rising's knee is good and the Utes' defense is strong again, they are the team to beat in the Big 12. 2. Kansas State. The first set of teams in these rankings showcase excellent coaching, which is what Kansas State football has in Chris Klieman. The third-year head coach has been excellent so far in Manhattan, with 2 top 25 finishes and a 9th-place finish last season in the college football playoff poll. They also won the Big 12 title in 2022. A lot to like about the program heading into the fall will be quarterback Avery Johnson, combined with DJ Giddens and the addition of Colorado transfer Dylan Edwards. 3. Oklahoma State. Admittedly, it's difficult to understand Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State at times. They can be inconsistent, like last year when they started 2-2 with losses to South Alabama and Iowa State in back-to-back weeks. Yet, Gundy and the Cowboys persevered and finished 10-4, reaching the Big 12 championship game. Running back Ollie Gordon II is back, along with Alan Bowman behind center and a ton of other starters. Don't count out Oklahoma State football for a return to the Big 12 title game. 4. Kansas. There may not be a better coach in the entire country than Lance Leipold. He's been a winner everywhere he's set up shop, including at Kansas. Last season, Leipold helped the Jayhawks earn their first winning season since 2008 and took them to 9 wins. That's astonishing when you consider where the program was just a few years ago. The sheer level of talent that the Kansas football program has now compared to years past is remarkable. It starts with quarterback Jalen Daniels, who dealt with injury most of last year. If the defense can tighten up this season, then they may find themselves in the Big 12 title game. 5. West Virginia. On the verge of being fired last season after 2 losing seasons, Neil Brown turned around the Mountaineers and got them to 9-4. Now everyone considers them a dark horse to contend in the Big 12. There's a lot to like about West Virginia's offense, thanks to quarterback Garrett Green and backs Jaheim White and C.J. Donaldson. It's the defense for the Mountaineers that allowed 26.15 points per game that will have to step up. 6. Arizona. If Jedd Fisch were still at Arizona, then perhaps the Wildcats would be much higher in these Big 12 post-spring power rankings. But he's gone to Washington, and now Arizona is led by Brent Brennan. Fisch wasn't the only one who left, as transfers weren't far behind. However, the most important player on the team didn't leave, which was quarterback Noah Fifita, who could be a dark horse Heisman candidate in 2024. 7. UCF. UCF's first season in the Big 12 didn't go as Gus Malzahn had planned after going 6-7. The Knights went through a rough stretch during the season where they lost 5 in a row, but then turned it around a bit and won 3 out of their last 5. Therefore, ranking them at number 7 may seem a bit high given the season they had. However, since this is based on spring happenings, the Knights shouldn't be ignored. UCF used the spring transfer portal to their advantage, coming away with a strong class that should greatly improve their roster for the 2024 season. One of those was edge rusher Nigel Kelly from Miami. But don't forget about quarterback KJ Jefferson, who came in during the winter additions. There are probably still some growing pains with this team as it's only their second year in the Big 12. 8. Texas Tech. The Red Raiders came into last season with lofty expectations, yet they failed to deliver on them. It took winning 3 out of their last 4 games for Joey McGuire's team to just become bowl eligible, which they capped off with an Independence Bowl victory over Cal. Quarterback Baron Morton and running back Taj Brooks should be a big part of this offense again, along with 5-star receiver Tim DeRuyter. Fixing some holes on defense will be the real challenge for this team in the upcoming season. 9. Iowa State. Matt Campbell's Cyclones did not start off last season great, losing 2 out of their first 3 and scoring just 20 points. Later wins over Oklahoma State and Kansas State helped get the team to 7-6 overall. They were also heavily in play to make the Big 12 title game late in the year. This season, what makes the Cyclones interesting is that they'll have the most returning production of any team in the country, according to Bill Connolly at ESPN. Plus, there's a lot to like about sophomore running back Abu Sama III, who had a very good freshman season. 10. Colorado. Deion Sanders and Colorado football get into the top 10 of our Big 12 post-spring power rankings. But really, where do you put the Buffaloes? They could realistically go as high as the top 5 or 3 even, or they could lower than their number 10 spot here. With the type of turnover this team has gone through now going into Sanders' second year in Boulder, it's almost impossible to gauge just how this team will be in the upcoming season. It wasn't easy during their first. The Buffaloes lost a lot of last year's key players to the portal, yet they also gained a lot back through it, particularly in the form of meeting their biggest needs on both lines. Plus, Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter are still there. Many forget how bad Colorado football was before Sanders got there, winners of only 1 game the year prior. Winning 4 games last year should still be considered a successful season. At the very least, a bowl game should be in order for the Buffaloes and at best an 8-win season. 11. TCU. Just behind Colorado football will be TCU, who was the first team to suffer defeat in Sanders' debut as head coach last year. That was also coming off a national championship appearance the year before. The Horned Frogs failed to even make a bowl game last year, however, going 5-7, losing 4 out of their last 5 games. It didn't help that the Horned Frogs lost a lot of production from their 2022 team, but head coach Sonny Dykes looks to have potentially restocked the roster this season. Though now the question mark is, will quarterback Josh Hoover be ready by the season opener after suffering an injury during the spring? 12. Baylor. Dave Aranda was being considered as one of the next best coaches in the country not long ago. Now coming off a 3-9 year, the Baylor head coach could be just a couple of bad losses away from being fired. In hopes of that not happening, the Bears are bringing in a lot of new this season. They'll have a new offensive coordinator in Jake Spavital from Cal, running backs coach Kenan Hall from SMU, which will help transition into a new offensive scheme. And to help run that offense on the field will be Toledo transfer Daquan Finn at quarterback.